run through these first slides and just speak to them real quick?
Oh, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Viraj.
Okay. I hope you all have seen the updates about Tableau Pulse. So please go ahead and explore this. It's out now, and as you know, the Tableau conference is just about the corner, and you have this promo code which you can use to get 35% off for the conference.
And
The conference,
Viraj confirmed with me today that's everybody out there. So if you want to save 35%, use the promo code, and we're going to put it in the chat so you can see it in the chat. So take advantage of that, and that'll be quite a saving. Go ahead, Viraj.
yeah, right. So the dates are like 29th April to 1st May, and it's in San Diego. And you have some great events and great sessions going on. So do register, and there is a sneak preview which is already available on the conference website. We'll be sharing you the link. Go ahead and see. There are some interesting topics which are lined up, and we have the data event of the year, like the Tableau conference, plus the best Viz competition, I would say, is the Iron Viz. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you will also enjoy it. So
Okay.
go ahead and please register.
Okay.
Thank
Why
you.
don't we pull up the other deck? Well, I'm seeing a lot of people here. I'm seeing people. We got somebody in from South Korea. Well, thank you very much. It must be early in the morning in South Korea. You know, it's got to be crazy earlier, or maybe my clock's off.
Must be about Ken and Kevin, because he joined or she joined.
Yeah, I think so. We got some people from Newark, Washington, D.C., from Minnesota. Very good. Very good. First, congratulations to Klaus becoming a first-time Hall of Famer. It's fabulous. For those of you who don't know, to become a Hall of Famer, and Ken is also a Hall of Famer. 5 times you need to be a visionary before you're considered for the Hall of Fame. And being a Hall of Famer is a big deal. Kevin is on. This is your 5th, isn't it? Your 5th time that you're a visionary, and it is my 4th time. So that's a big deal, and congratulations to everybody that made it. Not just the people.
Congratulations, Jim and Kevin.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations to you too, Klaus, at Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Ken, you just missed that. That's what Jim was just saying. So
Oh, okay.
one of 23 in the world, Klaus. So you can.
Not so many. And you are, of course, one of them, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're proud of every one of you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to continue to watch as you log in here. Just a few things to keep in mind. There's a lot of you out there today. Like I said, if you're just joining us now, there's probably going to be 300 or 400 of you live during the presentation. There's 175 out there now, right live. So you're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, as far as audio and visual is concerned, you can see us, but you can't see each other. And it would be just too much of an overload on the system. So we encourage you to chat among yourself in the chat area. If you have a question, for any of us or for one of the presenters, please use the Q&A option. It'll be so much easier for all of us to respond to your question. We'll be able to find it in the Q&A. And yes, before you ask, the event is being recorded. We record all the events, and they're usually available within a couple days after the event, and we put them up out on the blog site. And that link will be put up on the chat also. Viraj, let's go to the next slide there. Okay, just a little bit about us. We know some of you are brand new. You've never been to the newbie group before. We are now 2 years old. Klaus and I started this group 2 years ago. We try to meet every 6 to 8 weeks, about seven times a year. And there's 2 parts to each of the meetings. There's a part where it's the Jim and Klaus part, where we talk about how does that work in Tableau. And we take a deep dive into a function, explain how something works. And then we have a featured speaker. And the topics for those speakers come from you. I mean, this is your meeting. This is, we just host the meeting, but the content here is what you want it to be. And if you have an idea of a topic that you'd like to hear more about, put it in the chat and we'll try to work it in a future meeting. Now, today we got a couple of guys here that are very well known in the world of Tableau, and that's Ken and Kevin Flerlage. So this is going to be a very exciting day. Let's go to the next slide. Today's agenda, we're going to take, Klaus and I are going to talk about data connection and what's happening on the data source tab. And we're going to do a little live demo. And before you ask, yes, all those workbooks and anything that we have here are going to be available, and they'll be available out on the Tableau Newbie Group site also. And then Ken and Kevin are going to talk to us about why we actually why we do business in the first place and how we can focus on the data. And I'm looking forward to that myself. And then our superstars, Laura and Maddie, are going to, we always have a Kahoot quiz, and they actually make it up on the fly. So you have to pay attention. Now, I guarantee you, we have no prizes. There will be no cash awarded after this, but you can brag to your friends about how well you did on the Kahoot quiz. Let's go to the next slide here. Just to kind of keep you aware of what's happening in the future, today's April 18th, I'm sorry, today's March 6th. I got ahead of myself. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the data source tab. On the 18th of April, we're going to be talking about doing some basic charts. I mean, that's why you came to Tableau in the first place. And we're going to be getting away from text tables and getting away from what looks like Excel and talking about basic charting and how you go about doing basic charting. And then on the 22nd, we're going to be talking about what I think is probably the most important topic we talk all year, and that's the order of operation, because that's where most people end up having trouble. Then we go into table calculations and LOD calculations. And finally, toward the end of the year, we're going to do a session on maps.
Yeah, and this is kind of following the program and roadmap we set last time. I'm not sure if you were with us in January, where we introduced the topic for the year, and it's under the heading of transitioning from Excel to Tableau. And we had these buckets of topics that we consider to be most important when you start your journey. And we like to give you a brief introduction of the basic of each of this bucket. And today we want to talk about modifying data, your data on the data source page. Make sure to follow us on YouTube. We have a great playlist already with lots of sessions available. And there are some topics that were already part of one of the previous sessions. So there's lots of content already available, all tailored for newbies. So check out our new YouTube playlist. Yeah, and for the next meeting in April, you might already want to put that into your calendar. We have also great guests like today, Ken and Kevin. We have another Tableau icon with us in April, Andy Kriebel. You might know him from his visual vocabulary on Tableau Public. One of the all-time stars in the Tableau community. He will be with us and also talk about Tableau Public and how to use it to build a portfolio and how to get started with your Tableau journey. So grab the QR code and you can already sign in for the event.
Yeah, the event's already set up and you can sign in for today. Okay, this is the team. These are the people who put together each of the newbie group meetings. Could not possibly do this without this fabulous team. And Klaus and I go out here and kind of talk about. We get live on the meeting itself, and we get a lot of visual time. But the real stars of the show are the people you're going to meet. Viraj, why don't you explain who you are and where you're located?
Hi, I'm Viraj here and from Mumbai, India, and I am the Tableau user group ambassador for this year. And as I always say, I'm a Tableau newbie at heart, so I'm always learning from this group, from everyone from the community. I'm a lead analyst at Merkle, and I am happy to be part of this group. And and congratulations, Klaus, and it's great to be working with you in this initiative.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go counterclockwise here. Reyes?
Hey everyone, I'm Reyes Murrieta. I'm from Colorado originally, but I'm working from the road right now. So I find myself in Phoenix, Arizona for enjoying the good weather. I've been a Tableau user for a couple of years now. I'm a data scientist working for Zoetis, an animal pharmaceutical company, and love telling data stories and often use Tableau to do exactly that.
And where do you learn your Tableau?
I learned my Tableau from here. Yeah.
No, you learned it from your wife. Don't be lying to us.
I did. She got me introduced. So my wife works for
Exactly.
the USDA, and they use Tableau for lots of their dashboards. So she turned me on to it.
Yeah, exactly. Klaus?
Yeah, my name is Klaus, and I've been using Tableau since 2017. I work at Münster University of Applied Sciences in Germany, where I teach management accounting and data analysis. Yeah, and I'm also happy to be part of this team, and in the community, I'm also doing lots of things on Tableau Public and other user groups. Yeah, and I enjoy my time in the Tableau community.
Okay. Maddie?
Hi everyone, I'm Madeline Zook-Wild. I'm from Indianapolis and I work at a private grant-making foundation. So I actually use Tableau for a lot of state public data. So if you are a big prep user or messy government data person, I am with you.
And Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura. I just want to say I'm so grateful to be part of this team. I've been part of this team for almost 2 years now, which feels incredible to say. And I work at a law firm, so you probably don't think you've used Tableau in law firms, but I use it a lot in the financial aspects of the law firm. And like I'm in the process of working on a dashboard right now, but it's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic tool. So Tableau Prep, Tableau Online, that's where I do most of my work. So it's been fantastic working with them. So yeah.
And I'm Jim Daner. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And like I said, we've had this group for 2 years. Barrage and Laura are original members. We're always looking for additional volunteers. So if you're interested, please put that in the chat and let us know that you're interested. I see Robert Meyer here. Robert, go Hoosiers. As Maddie knows, I went to Purdue and we have a little no tension there, but it's boiler up. It's not go Hoosiers. Just remember that. Okay. I think we're ready to move on at this point.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about the data source page today. So we're still early in the year, and like I said, we want to talk a little bit about your starting your journey and transitioning from Excel to Tableau. So it's a good thing to talk about the data source page early in the year. And today we want to talk about some basics. And maybe wait a second, Viraj. So we will not start at the very beginning. So we won't dig deep into setting up data sources and building connections to your files or servers. So we won't do that. So we assume a little bit you already know how to set such a connection. But what we want to talk about today is to modify your data by creating unions, joins, and relationships. Yeah, and therefore we start with a little example. So I will do a little bit of a theoretical introduction, and then Jim will take it over with a demo on the things that I explained. Okay, next slide, Viraj. Yeah, so assuming you have already established a connection and you brought in a table, we start with this. Next slide, Viraj, or next animation. So you set up that connection, and you brought in a table to your canvas, and first thing we want to talk about is the physical layer. And in the physical layer, you can modify your table by adding more rows or more columns. And to do that, you first need to access this physical layer. And if you have never done this, this might be already a first barrier, but it's quite easy to do actually. So when you have brought your table to the canvas, just double click, in this case orders, and you will enter the physical layer of your table. Okay, and starting from here, we can now do the basic modifications. The first thing you can do here is to create a union. Yeah? Assume you have several files, let's say, like several Excel files holding, for example, monthly sales. And for your analysis, you have to put all these files together, or you have to stack these tables on top of each other. And this is what a union does. A union adds rows to your table, and therefore is described as vertical. To do that, you can imagine your field names, so your column headers and your data types also have to match. Otherwise, you cannot do a union, or it would result in columns where you have null values and you would have to merge them afterwards. How can you create a union? There are several ways to create unions in Tableau. My preferred way is just to grab the second and third and so on table and drag them on top of the first one, and then just go slightly below the first table, and you get this reddish area where you can then drop the second and third table and so on. And this way you can create a union. Yeah, so there are more ways to do that, but this is maybe the easiest one. And this way, your table just gets longer, and you can combine all the similar tables from different connections or different tables. That's the first one, a union. Then second one is the join, and a join will add columns to your table. Yeah, so let's assume you have information in different tables stored, and you need to bring them together. So you want to add columns to your initial table. To do that, you need a common key in both tables, like you, for example, know from the VLOOKUP in Excel. And you also have to define the join type. Yeah, so when you drag in your second table to the canvas, Tableau will already realize that you want to do a join and asks for the common key in both tables. Most likely it will identify even the common keys based on the labels of these fields. And then you can define the join type. We won't dig into this today too deep. So by default, it's an inner join, but you might want to have a left join, a right join, or full outer join. Yeah, so with a join, you add columns to your table, and that's why they are described as horizontal. Yeah, so joins make your table wider, again, while union make your tables longer. And you might already think of this. You can also have both. So going one further, so you can also join a table to already union tables. So you see in the little example in the yellow area that there are several tables for orders stacked on top of each other. And then I perform the join to bring in the returns. So you can have both. Yeah? So first I union, then I joined, and I just modified my table and made it wider and longer in this case. So this may be something that you have already heard about. So this is the physical layer, and this will actually change your table. Yeah, it will add columns, it will add rows. Then we have a third thing on the data source page that we want to talk about today, and that is the logical layer. Yeah. So again, starting with your initial table, with your orders, so with my orders table in this case, with unions and joins and everything sits within this orders element. So we have unions and joins on the physical layer, one level deeper. But here on the logical layer, we can now add more tables and relate it to the initial table. Yeah, so this way we can combine data from multiple tables and also add columns in a way, but without doing the physical join and the static physical join. That is the default way to combine data in Tableau Desktop. I think since version 2020.2 or something like that. And it's a very flexible way, a smart way to keep a flexible level of detail, and Tableau will automatically determine how to put the tables together at the time of analysis. That means while you are dragging your pills in your visualization, it will decide how to perform the join. Yeah, so this is basically a rough overview. So we have unions, joins on the physical layer, plus relationships on the logical layer. And Viraj, if you go one step further, this is somehow the complete picture of modifying your data connections in Tableau Desktop. And Jim will now take over and do some examples on these topics.
Okay, great. Thanks, Klaus. I'm going to share my screen now, and it's going to go a little crazy for just a second. Okay, as Klaus said, we're going to start with a fairly simple example, and I'm going to build from that point. I want to start with an example of some data that you might get in your business from your ERP system. Maybe you're getting sales in one table and quantity in another table. And a question we get over and over again on the forum and elsewhere is, how do I do a VLOOKUP? I've got sales in one table and I got quantity in another table. And if I was doing this in Excel, all I would do is I'd create a VLOOKUP, and I'd bring the quantities on the same table with sales. Well, in Tableau, as Klaus was saying, we don't do it quite that way. We connect the two tables together, and I've got two tables here. Here's my sales table, and you can see what I've got here. I've got some orders, and we've got customers, and we've got products. And orders have products. So if you were to look at a line level, the unique combination is order and product. We also have quantities. And that table is the same. It's laid out the same way. The only difference is now we're getting unit sales versus dollar sales. And if we want to do this VLOOKUP type activity, we need to connect the two. And the connector that we have that connects these two, this is actually a relationship. We need to connect the orders so that they're same in each one of the tables. And then we have to connect the product. And once we do that, we have a table that looks like this, and we can calculate I keep ducking down. I'm sorry, my microphone's in the way. I'm going to move it to the side here just a little bit. And we can calculate our average selling price. It's nothing more than the sum of sales divided by the sum of quantity, and we can get the average selling price at each product level. We could also, because we're connected at the customer level, we could look at the customer average selling price, or we could take a look at the order average selling price, or any combination thereof. And that's fine. I mean, we've got our first month sales, we've got our orders, and we've got our quantities, and we've got our sales, and we can do our average selling price. But the next month comes along, and we've got a whole new set of sales and a whole new set of quantities. Now, if you were doing this in Excel or you had an Access database, for example, you'd append those two files together, like Klaus was talking about. We want to put that data down at the bottom of our original data set. We want to extend that data set vertically. And we can do that in Tableau, but we would do that with the union that Klaus was referring to earlier. What I would do here is I start, here's my January sales, and I've already created a bit of a union, and I've got my January sales. I can take my February sales and just drag them in. And now I've got the January and February sales. I want to do the same thing with quantity, and I've got the January quantity. Well, let's use that method that Klaus showed us earlier. We're going to take our February quantity. We can put it there, and you see this box opened up that said union, and I'll just drop it right in there, and that's real easy to do. And when we do that, let's see if we can move that down. You'll notice whenever you union tables together, whenever we connect tables together that way, we end up with two additional columns in our data set. One is for the sheet name, and one is for the table name. These are real dimensions, and you can use those like any other dimension to separate the two data sets out. We've got our February quantities in this, and we've got our January quantities. Well, once we've done that, we can come back and we can take a look at our average selling price again. It's the same as we looked at before. Let's just open it up and we'll take a look at it. We can take a look at our average selling price, and we can add that to the data set. And because we've connected all this together, we can take a look by month. We can just take our dates and drop them in here. And we can take a look by, I want to look by month. We can take a look at our January and February. Oops.
You had January twice in the union for the sales.
I'm sorry, I had January twice in the sales?
For the sales, yeah.
Well, thanks, Klaus. Sorry, guys. Yes, I did. Yes, we needed the February sales in there, didn't we? Sorry. Okay, there we go. There we go. And we can take a look, and we can see our, we can take a look at our January and February sales. We can take a look at our average selling price by month. Now I'd like to take a look at how we add some master data. Well, those of you who are familiar with ERP systems, you know that you create a product master, you create a customer master. And in our product master, what we've done is we've created our a file that has our product hierarchy, and we also include the price list in our product hierarchy in our master data set. And separately, we've also got a customer file, and that's includes the customer and the sales rep responsible for those sales. And we'd like to add those into what we've already created. And we'll go back to that data source tab, and we want to take a look at that guy again. And we can take our product master file, and we can connect that in here. And you can see that noodle that's created. This is the relationship noodle that's created. And when we drop that into place, we can see that Tableau's automatically going to say, hey, it knows that the product in the master file is the same product that's in the other two files. And we can also drop in our customer master, okay, at the same time. And the customer in the two files we created earlier is going to match up with the customer in our product master file. It's right here. So now we can go back in and we can take a look at the data with our product master in, and now we have data by product line and product group, which was in our customer master, and we can look at the individual products. And once again, let's just throw the ASP on there, and it's the same calculation for the average selling price. All we've done is connected the data together so that we can look at it at different levels. And if we wanted to, we could come in here and we could put our customer in here also. Let's just put our customer out here, and we could look at any different level, and we could drop our sales rep in because sales reps are associated with customers. Okay, so we've got our customers, we got our sales rep, we've also got our product, and we can take a look at our average selling price. Now there's an additional piece that we want to look at in our customer master, where we put in our sales rep, and we can see the data at any level that we want. We have one more file that I did want to add, and I want to show you how that's done. What we've done at this point is this is our original sales data and our sales quantity data, and we've added to it both our customer data and our product hierarchy data. But I've also got one additional file. And this file is in the HR file. And you know how HR guys are real spooky and they keep all their information in a separate file. And it includes the sales goal for the year. And they keep that in an Access database. Now, if I wanted to bring that into Tableau and connect it to the data that we already have, we'd find out that we can't just create a join or a union or a relationship inside Access between these two different types of files. If we tried to connect the Access database to the file that we've already created, we're going to get a message, and that message is going to say, "Hey, these two files can't be connected together. But we can use a blend to connect those two files together. A different type of relationship. I've got two different files here. I've got our sales file, and this is the file that we've been looking at. I'm just going to open that up so we can see what that looks like. All I'm doing is clicking on that hamburger there. And you can see we got the customer master, we got our multi-month quantities, we got our sales, and we've got our product master. And those are all connected together. And then we've got this other file that sits out there, and it's our sales goals. And all we have in that file at this point is we have our sales manager, our sales rep, and the goal for the year. And the only thing this file has in common with that multi-file connection that we've used in the past is the sales rep. And we have a blend relationship between those two files. And that's great. We can come in here, and we can take a look, and we can take a look at our sales by month, and we can take a look at this formula. This is our percent to goal. All we're going to do is we get this goal from our secondary file. That's this file here, and our sales from our original file, and we can calculate our percent to month. You'll notice a couple things going on here, that whenever we take data from our secondary file, it comes over to the primary file, our first file, as a aggregate. It has to be aggregated at that point. If I tried to do a calculated field, and I wanted to write a LOD, for example, and I wanted to take a look at let's say the customer level, and I wanted our sales goals. I looked at that, it would come over aggregated also, but I'd also get an error message right away. And that error message just simply says, you can't do that. It says all that data has to come from the same data source. Well, let's take a look at why that is and what's going on. And then I'm going to show you a way to get around that. Okay. This is the order of operation. This is a 10-step order of operation, at least the one that I like to use. And we can see here, this is where data blending takes place. That's where that blend that we just created takes place. It's in the 6th step of the order of operation. The fixed LODs, sets, and top end are created in step 4. Filters are applied in steps 3 and 5, and all that happens before the blending takes place. So there are limitations that are placed upon you when you use blended data, but there's a way around that. And the way that I would advise, and you know, if you've ever seen me answer a question for you on the forum and you say, well, I've got this blended data, the first thing I'm going to say is, well, why don't you take the data sets outside of Tableau and go to prep and join them in prep or union them in prep, which you can do, and then bring that back into Tableau. All this prep flow does is this first set just creates the union with the data sets like we did before. The second set joins those joins the quantity data in the sales data together. This third step adds the customer file. This fourth step adds the product master file, just like we did. And this final step is the step that takes that data from the Access database and joins it to the sales data that we created before. And once we do that, now we have this data set that is all one single data set, and we can take a look at goals. And if we wanted to take a look and write a LOD expression here, for example. And we just looked at the customer level, just like we were looking before, and we could take a look at some of the goals. Somebody's got a mic open over there. You can see that sure enough, we can do that, and we can use that fixed LOD in our data. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we're going to send it back to Klaus.
Yeah, maybe one thing I want to add, Jim. Maybe can you go to one of the other workbooks where you have multiple connections or multiple tables?
Sure, I can.
Maybe one little trick that has always been a lifesaver for me: when you clear the search in the data pane on the left side.
Wait a minute. Okay. Let me take you back to this.
Yeah.
This book.
So in this view, you see the different tables in the data pane, right? Like customer master, January quantity, and so on. Two things. First of all, you can rename the tables, because in this case, January quantity isn't just January quantity anymore, but it's the union table. So it also includes February and so on. And you might wonder, maybe I don't have that view. I don't see the different tables. That is because you can switch between the data source table view or data source table grouping and grouping by folders. Maybe you can show that, Jim, how you switch between the two.
Sure, Klaus. Just show me where to do it.
Yeah,
I'm
just
sorry,
right-click.
I've never done that before.
Yeah, right-click somewhere and then group by folder.
Oh. We can do that.
When you group by folder,
group by folder.
Yeah, you could do that as well,
Okay.
and then you lose the tables, but you can group them into different folders. And if you want to get it back, you can just group back by data source table.
There. Whoops. There we go. Very good. Very good. Hey, thank you. I learned something.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back to you, Klaus.
Okay, good. Viraj, can you bring up that slide?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any immediate questions, or I think we can go on, right?
Yep, we can go.
Okay, I thought we had one more slide there. I'll go ahead and introduce Ken and Kevin.
Yeah,
I've known Ken and Kevin for quite some time. Very good friends. And you talk about icons in the Tableau community. There are probably no two bigger icons in the Tableau community than these two twins. Ken is a Hall of Fame visionary. He's also a Forums ambassador. Kevin's a 5-time visionary. He's a Tableau public ambassador. They both just recently, this last year, have become consultants with Moxie Analytics, and they're doing just a tremendous job on that. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they're going to take over control of the meeting at this point.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Let me share my screen. You'll get to hear me chat for a minute, and then I'll pass it over to Ken. I do hear somebody like, I don't know, it's like breathing in the microphone.
Yeah.
All right, let me share. And you said wonky. Can you see the slides okay, Jim?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to be talking for about half an hour. We're going to be talking about why the heck we do this in the first place, right? Why do we visualize data? What's the benefit? And so Ken will really get into the details, but I get to introduce us and just have a few silly comments about us. So quick introductions. My name's Kevin. That's for a while I used to cling on to what hair I had left. And well, about a year ago, I just decided to get rid of it. But you can tell the caricatures are now with the hair. That's Ken. We run the website flerlagetwins.com. There are currently about 390 blog posts. I've been running that website for a total of 9 years. And out of the 390 blog posts, about 387 of them are about Tableau. we, as Jim mentioned, we are consultants for Moxie Analytics. I'm a 5-time Tableau visionary, and Ken's a Hall of Fame Tableau visionary. If you didn't catch it, we were congratulating Klaus for just going into the Tableau Hall of Fame, Tableau Visionary Hall of Fame. There's only 23 people in the entire world that are in that group. So congrats to Klaus and to Ken as well. We do Tableau stuff. We do data project work. We also do a variety of other kind of things where you can get us on retainer. You can just get us for an hour. We do boot camps. So we have a 101 course coming in May. And we just kind of teased this recently. It's kind of what people have been wanting from us is we're going to be doing an advanced course likely in September. And it's going to be pretty lengthy. I think it's going to be probably about 20 hours of content. That's what we're estimating. So if you want to know more information, message us on Twitter, LinkedIn, email, whatever, or on our website, and we'd be happy to share that information when we have it. And then just generally speaking, our company, Moxie Analytics, not our company, we work for Moxie Analytics, 6 people, and we do data stuff for money. So everybody wants to know, hey, we're identical twins. How alike are we? So we can use some level of data to do that. So we can talk about where we live. So I live in just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, in a town called Burlington, Kentucky. So 20 miles from Cincinnati. Ken lives in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, 20 miles outside of absolutely nothing. If you want to know where he is in Pennsylvania, he's 3 hours from Philly. He's 3 hours from Pittsburgh. He's 4 hours from Cleveland. He's 3 hours from Baltimore, 3 hours from any sort of civilization. What do we like to visualize on Tableau Public? Well, Ken likes to visualize topics like religion and war, endangered species, in politics. Where on the other hand, I love to tackle the really hard-hitting subjects like Adam Sandler or TV, Seinfeld here, cartoon and video games. Who's the best at this Tableau stuff? That's what everybody always wants to know. Who's the best? Well, we also have some data for that. Ludovic Tavernier, if I pronounce that correctly, he's created this thing he calls TP for Tableau Public, and it looks at people's favorites on Tableau Public. How many people are following different people on Tableau Public? So we can zoom in here, and we can see that I'm number 3 in numbers, and Ken is a distant 4th. Pretty lame. And this is out of 3 million authors, by the way. So we're blessed that we're up there. I mean, Ken is way behind me, obviously. And if we look at favorites as well, that again, me 3rd and Ken 4th. I think it's very clear mathematically and statistically, I am significantly better than Ken.
It's funny, Jim, how he conveniently leaves out the forums in this.
Or the fact that we already talked about that you're a Hall of Fame Tableau visionary, and I've not made it there. So the truth is, Ken started using Tableau 2 years before me, and he was a visionary before I even started. What's that?
Yeah. Yes, Ken. Aren't you also second on the forum?
Yeah. I don't know. Kevin's maybe like 150 or something like that.
Yeah, I was about ready to say that, yes, you are in fact better than me, but I'm not going to do it now. So I'm going to just let the audience decide who they think is best. So that's all for me. And I'm going to pass it over to Ken. Ken's going to talk in detail why we visualize data.
Okay. Where share?
I'm also clearly better at using web sharing software.
All right. See PowerPoint?
We do, Ken. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So, so let's talk about why we visualize data, right? So, the people, if you're starting to use Tableau, you're probably coming from a variety of different backgrounds, right? You might have learned the tool in school. You might have learned it, just started a job and had to pick it up and start learning it. You might have transitioned from using like a traditional BI platform, like a Cognos or Business Objects or something like that. And the theme of the the newbie tug here is moving from Excel, right? So you may have come from that Excel background. Kevin said he used to talk about grinding it out in Excel for many years doing analytics, right? So if you've come from those backgrounds, it's likely that you've done analytics in sort of a Excel with pivot tables or crosstab reports or list type reports, reports that are just sort of showing the raw data, right? And in those cases, when you start to transition over to Tableau, you might sort of find yourself trying to do what and use Tableau to do what So you're creating tables and crosstabs and those kinds of things in Tableau because that's what you're comfortable with from your background. But that's not what Tableau is for, right? Tableau is a visual analytics platform. So it's all about using visual analytics to extract insight from your data in a sort of new and different way, right? And a lot of times when you just sort of learn Tableau on your own, or even a lot of the training courses don't really focus all that much on, or at least don't focus enough on why we do this, why we visualize data, why using charts and graphs is a little bit better than using raw data and tables. But understanding this, understanding how and why we visualize data is really critical to being good with Tableau. You can know how to do the most advanced things in Tableau and table calcs and LODs and all kinds of stuff. But if you don't understand why we visualize data, if you don't understand basic data visualization concepts, then you're probably going to end up, producing content that isn't as insightful as it could be. Right. So what we're going to do is not talk about Tableau at all here for a moment. We're going to take a step back and talk about why we visualize data. Why is it so important to visualize data, and why we kind of need to move away from data that is always in columns and rows like Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables and crosstabs and those kinds of things. So to do that, let's start with this set of raw data. Think about this as a set of raw data that's in an Excel spreadsheet, right? In this case, we just got a bunch of numbers in a big grid here. And my challenge to you is to find all the twos, right? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to find all the twos. And then if anybody thinks after 30 seconds, if you think how many twos there are, just throw it in the chat and let us know what your thoughts are. And Kevin, maybe you can read off some of the answers.
Somebody said 30. Somebody said 9. I think people are still counting.
Okay, that's 30 seconds. So you got to stop counting. Throw your answers in the chat.
40, 45, 100, 60,
right.
28, 60, 31, 15. They're still coming. 25.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's good. That's good enough. Right. So, I mean, those answers are all over the place. And why is that, right? Because what you probably were doing, you probably did one of two things. One is you tried to scan each row and count all those twos, right? You're looking at every single number to find those twos. That's one thing you might have done. The other approach you might have taken is this sort of statistical approach, right? There are 10 individual numbers, count the number of columns, count the number of rows, do the basic statistics to figure out how many twos there should be, right? And then make sort of an educated guess based on that. So you're probably doing one of those two things to figure out how many twos are in there, right? But the problem is you have to really sort of look, if you really want to know, you have to look at every individual number and determine whether it's a two. Now let's do something visual. Let's add sort of a visual technique to this and see how it changes what we're doing, right? So in this case, we've made the twos larger, made all the other numbers smaller. Now, if I asked you in this case to count all the twos, it would be really easy, right? Because your eyes are quickly drawn to those larger twos, and it's pretty easy to run through and count up all those twos. So this is a visual technique that we use in data visualization to find insights in our data that we wouldn't find otherwise, right? Size is this particular insight or particular tool. We can also use other tools. So color, for example. So the twos are now blue. All the others are gray. We can get, again, our eye is attuned to those blue, and we can catch those and pick those out very easily. We can also use color, the background color, as opposed to coloring the text itself. Now, of course, when we're working with data like this, we're using the power of the computer, right? And if the real question was how many twos there are, then there's really no point in sitting here and counting them at all, even with these visual techniques. We can just let the computer count them up for us. So that first guess of 30 was really good. It's actually exactly how many twos there are. So I have no idea how that person got that answer. I'm hoping it was a guess. But if you actually counted all those twos, then amazing. I would like to have your skills. All right. So having, kind of understanding, through these visual techniques, how many twos there are, what might be the next logical question that you would ask of this data set? Again, use the chat. What might you start asking of this data set once you know the number of twos? Anybody have any ideas in the chat, Kev?
What's the total percentage of twos versus everything else?
Yeah, basically, right? To me, that's the next logical question is, how's the number of twos compare to all the other 9 numbers in this grid, right? So in that case, we can use a totally different visual technique. We don't need to see each individual instance in this case. We can just count them all up, and we use another type of visual, a bar chart, right? So we can see all of the numbers and how often they've counted. We're using color in this case to just sort of highlight the 2 which we've been focused on, right? So if we sort this bar chart, we can see now very, very easily that the 2s are the least common. And the bar charts are great because our eyes can very easily see compare lengths of these bars or these straight lines, right? So we can tell very easily that 4 is slightly more common than 3, and 3 is slightly more common than 6, right? So this is another technique using bars and length, right, to find differences visually. So here's another challenge for you. So I've got 2 data sets here. These data sets go back all the way back to 1800, all the way through the current year. One shows GDP per capita by country for each of those years. The other one shows life expectancy per company, or life expectancy for each of those countries per year. So if I gave you this raw data, say in a spreadsheet, and asked you to find some sort of interesting insights in this, how difficult would it be to do that, right? Think about this for a moment. And then we're going to show you a video. It's actually a pretty famous video in the data visualization space that works with this data and does some really cool stuff. So I think it would be very difficult to find much insight by just using this raw data, but instead, let's use data visualization to do this. If you don't hear the sound, someone please let me know.
We're good.
Visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. I teach global health. And I know having the data is not enough. I have to show it in ways people both enjoy and understand. Now, I'm going to try something I've never done before. Animating the data in real space with a bit of technical assistance from the crew. So, here we go. First, an axis for health. Life expectancy from 25 years to 75 years. And down here, an axis for wealth, income per person, $400,000, $4,000, and $40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and healthy. Now, I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago in 1810. Here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa south of Sahara blue, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country bubbles show the size of the population. And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off, but not much. And now, why start the world? The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe. And now I speed up through the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forge on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia and Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa follows. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics. Most people today live in the middle, but there are huge differences at the same time between the best of countries and the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These bubbles show country averages, but I can split them. Take China, I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province Guizhou. It is like Pakistan. And if I split it further, the rural parts are like Ghana in Africa. And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see a clear trend into the future. With aid, trade, green technology, and peace, it's fully possible that everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner. Well, what you just seen in the last few minutes is a story of 200 countries shown over 200 years and beyond. It involved plotting of 120,000 numbers. Pretty neat, huh?
Ken, you're on mute. Hey, Ken, we can't hear you.
You're on mute, Ken.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I was just saying that I just love. So that's Hans Rosling. I just love that video. I've seen it probably 100 times, and I never get tired of watching it. Just his passion for this topic. But I just think, if you ask the question of why we visualize data, well, I mean, that tells the story right there, right? If you were looking at that raw data, you would never see those interesting insights. You would never see that quick drop that happened in 1918 with the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. I don't know if anyone noticed, but when he restarted it after 1948, China, the biggest bubble there, the biggest red bubble, took a big drop pretty early on in that. Well, what happened early or in the mid 1900s in China? 1959 was the Chinese famine, right? So they had a huge drop in life expectancy in 1959. But you can't see those kinds of things by looking at raw data. But when you visualize data, you can see it so quick and easily and get instant insights out of your data. So here's the basic chart that Hans Rosling had shared there. And there are a handful of visual techniques that he's using in this chart. So one, the obvious one, I think, is color, right? So color showed sort of basically the continent, right, or the region, where we had red would be Asia and blue was Africa, think the yellow was North America, brown was Europe, right? So we start to see, sort of a spattering of these to understand how those regions are doing. Size, we already dealt with that with the size of our numbers. Sorry, my cat is being difficult. So size indicates the size of the population. So we can see right in the middle those two big red bubbles for India and China, right? But even if we take away color and size, I think there are still some techniques that are maybe a little bit more subtle, right? And that technique we're using here is position. So the position along this horizontal axis, which is our wealth, our GDP per capita, right? That shows, so where these bubbles show along that axis shows how wealthy that country is, and where they show along this vertical axis, lifespan, we can see how healthy they are. Right. So up in the top right corner, they're healthy and wealthy. In the bottom left-hand corner, they're sick and poor. Right. So position is another one of those key things that we use in data visualization. So ultimately, we've sort of been talking about these different techniques that we use in data visualization to find insights in our data. And what these are called pre-attentive attributes, these tools of the trade. And pre-attentive attributes are visual properties that our brain can process subconsciously and within milliseconds, right? So we see and identify these patterns before we even think about it, right? We immediately see these, we immediately understand them, we immediately find insights in this information when we use these visual techniques. And there's a book called The Big Book of Dashboards. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. It's a great book, talks about data visualization as well as has lots of great examples of dashboards. But they talk about pre-attentive attributes as being sort of hacks, right? Hacks where you can essentially, hack our brain to instantly understand the data, right? So these are the tools of our trade in data visualization. We have a series of things like that use form, right? So things like length, which is what bar charts are using, size, we talked about that, and then a variety of other things like shape and blur and that kind of thing, right? We also have color, so two different components of color. We have the hue, right? So see very clearly this little pink reddish bubble stands out from the rest because of that color. And we also have the intensity, right? So the same color, just lighter or darker. And then we have spatial, right? So spatial is the positioning along those axes that we talked about. We can see very clearly that this one is a little different than the rest of these. Then we have things that sort of get grouped together. And then sometimes people show motion as a pre-attentive attribute. It really is just sort of position, except change over time, right? But I've included it here because just think about the Hans Rosling video and how powerful it is to see him press the play button, watch these things as they go up and down throughout time, right? So again, these are the tricks on the trade of data visualization. These are the things we should be using. And the one thing I really recommend to people is as you're building a chart, whether it's in Tableau or Power BI or wherever that you might be, or Excel, if you're building a chart, think about what pre-attentive attribute you're using, right? And if you aren't using any pre-attentive attributes, then it's probably a good sign that you probably need a different chart. A plain, simple crosstab table doesn't use any pre-attentive attributes. But if you change that into a highlight table, then it does use some pre-attentive attributes. So always be thinking about these and how you're applying them, or if you're applying them in your work. So, just some examples, obviously, data visualization is used all over the place. A lot of us use this, particularly Tableau users are using it from a business standpoint for business and nonprofits. Here's an example. Using a table, but uses a highlight table so that you can get some insights of which numbers are larger and smaller, right? It's used in journalism. You can't go to any big website on any given day and not see data visualization. You're going to see it all over the place. So this comes from the New York Times Upshot. Used in statistical analysis. I really have no idea what this is showing, but it's doing some sort of statistical analysis of data. We even see it on apps, right? So if you've got an Apple Watch, this is a little dated. I'm not sure if Apple Watch still does this. I'm not an Apple person, so I don't know. But basically measuring your activities through the day is using a bar chart. It's a bar chart that's sort of curved in a circular fashion, but it's still a bar chart, right? And then even seeing people do things with art, right? So this is something that visualizes the numbers of pi, the first 5,000 numbers of pi, and just sort of connects them together and creates something that is really beautiful, right? So you're seeing this whole new space of people using data visualization to create art. And there are lots of tools, right? Again, this Newbies tug is all about Tableau, but there are lots of ways to create data visualizations, and I sort of break them up into 3 categories, right? There are what I would call manual tools. There are things where you're hand drawing it, or you're using like a graphics type of tool, like an Adobe or Figma or Illustrator. And these are often used if you're creating sort of a static infographic, right? You need it to be sort of pixel perfect. And maybe you're publishing it, or you're putting on a poster or something like that. Now, the problem with these is it's when that data changes, it's hard to update that. You have to kind of go through that manual process again. And they often require sort of graphic design skills and take more time to build. We also have this middle area here, which I would call programming languages. So JavaScript, Python, R, pretty much every programming language has some libraries available. You will see these frequently. D3.js, a JavaScript library, is used a ton in journalism and apps and websites. Really allows them to create, really whatever they could possibly imagine in a pixel perfect kind of way. They can be, because it's technology, right? Because it's a computer building these, you can easily update that with fresh data. But the drawback of these tools is you have to know how to be a programmer, right? And even once you know how to be a programmer, you have to learn that particular language and that particular library that you need to build the visualizations. And ultimately, because you're writing code, these typically take longer to build. And then we have this software, so Tableau, Power BI, Click, and it seems like there's a new one every single day that is coming in. And these are point and click, drag and drop sort of tools like we've seen with Tableau. Typically provide some tools for modeling your data. They can be, there's enterprise components of it where you can schedule the refreshes and then deliver that content through the web. I think the most important thing is you don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be a graphic designer, right? It's really easy to get started with these tools and pick them up and run. And that's why we love Tableau so much, right? And it creates this sort of, because of that, because you don't have to have all those technical skills, we have people that have joined this community from all kinds of different industries. And it really creates this sort of rich tapestry of experience. Value of Tableau, well, all those things I just mentioned, but it is the industry-leading data viz platform. I think your skills that you're learning, particularly if you're learning data visualization as you go, those skills are transferable to other tools for sure. There are tens of thousands of customers. This number might even be old. It might be hundreds of thousands of customers at this point. And it's used by pretty much every industry anywhere in the world, right? So learning Tableau is a great way to do your data visualization. And with that, that is all we have on why we visualize data. Thank you.
Kevin, that was fabulous. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Chat went wild. There were a lot of questions. Viraj, is there any particular question left that Ken and Kevin might answer, or have they all been answered at this point?
Or anything that you think might benefit the whole group? Any questions that were answered or asked?
No, I think it's all asked. I don't see any open question.
Maybe I have one, Ken.
Okay.
Since you introduced your 3 buckets of tools and you had the programming libraries in the middle, what do you think that what tools like ChatGPT can help you a lot with programming languages? Mm-hmm. Will that be a threat for tools like Tableau, or How do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thought. I mean, I don't know where, I would imagine, some of the people that build these data visualization libraries for, Python and JavaScript are probably thinking about that, right? How do we start to automate some of these mundane programming tasks by building these tools into, our platform or whatever, right? But I think it certainly simplifies it, right? You still ultimately have to produce the code one way or another, whether you're writing it yourself or you're having it generated by a ChatGPT engine, or you've borrowed it from somebody who's written it on GitHub, or you've just reused code that you've used in the past, right? Ultimately, you still have to generate that code, and I think you still need to understand it, right? You still need to at least need to be conversational in the code to be able to put all the pieces together. So I think it certainly simplifies that middle layer, but I don't think it'll ever be as easy as I don't want to say ever, because who knows where we'll be in 10 or 20 years, right? But in the short term, I don't think it's going to be as easy as the drag and drop functionality of Tableau.
Yeah.
Tableau, I mean, to me, Tableau, what's so powerful about it is you connect to data, you start dragging pills over, and you've got a chart, right? And you're like, oh, that doesn't really show what I want to show. And then you try something different, you try something different, you try something different. You can't really do that in a programming environment, right? And not as easily, right? You have to write all that code to build that chart. And I used to speak to students. I used to do guests. I used to work at a university, and I used to do guest lectures. And that was one of the things, I would talk to computer science students. They're programmers, right? And I would say, even if you want to build something ultimately in, JavaScript, still, you can use Tableau as a prototyping tool to just figure out what works and what you want to do by dragging and dropping, quickly getting these answers and see what works and doesn't, and then you go build that within the code.
I agree.
Laura, are you and Maddie ready to go?
I need like a minute, but I'm just uploading some pictures. So it isn't boring.
Okay, very good. We get to look at it. We get to look at Ken and Kevin. I had a question in there. I told them that I volunteered to be adopted by you two, but I think Ken said I had too much hair. I'm not sure.
Very funny.
You have sat down and had dinner with our parents, though, so
Yes,
you're our honorary twin.
and I hope they're doing well. I hope they're doing well.
They are. Thanks.
Okay, let us know when you're ready, Laura.
Okay, give me a minute. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody also asked who was older, Ken or I, and so I was lucky enough to say I'm older by 1 minute. So once again, statistically, I am better than Ken.
Older's a good thing.
No reaction from Ken whatsoever. He's not paying attention to me.
Yeah, I would remind everybody we're going to have a quiz here. There are no prizes, except you get to go home and brag to your family how well you did on this quiz. Silence. There we go. Okay, just a reminder about the next meeting. It's going to be on April 18th, and Andy Kriebel is going to be our guest speaker. Andy's a Hall of Fame visionary, is he not?
He is.
Yeah. I'm looking at him. Yeah, if he's not a Hall of Fame visionary, he is one of the founding fathers. That's for sure. And you see Andy out on social media all the time. So we're thrilled to have him speaking, and that will be right before TC. When you're ready, Laura.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay. I'm ready now. I'm going to share my screen, and it took me some time to get some of the pictures and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna start now and I will share my screen soon. Oh, I was looking at the wrong one. Let me know if you guys can see it.
We don't see you yet.
It's still
Okay,
There we go.
I believe I started it, but oh. Okay, I'm sharing this tab, I think. No, what's going on here?
we see.
There
Yeah.
we go.
I can mute it if you want. Maddie helped me with some of the questions. I was taking notes, but my notes were not very good when I tried to make it a question.
Maddie, did you do the good questions, or was that Laura?
She did.
Okay.
She did questions for Ken and Kevin.
Oh, okay.
Because I was putting together things at the end.
Okay, those were the difficult ones.
Yeah.
Spoiler up. There you go. Winner. Chicken dinner
Well,
right there.
The worst? Okay. What if the worst wins? I'm not sure who that is, but that'll be fun.
Laura, you might have to reduce the volume
Oh, yeah,
for the
I can
music.
mute it. Yeah. My apologies. I'll mute it. No worries. Is that better?
Yes, it's much better.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was that loud.
No, it was suddenly loud, so
Oh no.
maybe the network. Yep.
I had so much fun. I think I watched that video. I don't know if you guys did it in any other presentations, Ken and Kevin. Like the video you showed, I feel like I watched it before when you guys were presenting somewhere else, maybe.
I don't think that we don't use that a lot in our presentations. We use it a lot in our training.
Maybe
though.
I looked it up, but yeah, no, I've seen
training,
that,
and it is a common video that you'll see on presentations because it is so powerful, right?
It really is. Yeah, awesome. We have 60. If I can get 2 more people, 65, and I'll start. I don't want it to.
Yeah, Laura gets paid on the number of participants. So
yeah, I get paid really well. If it's 65, I make.
There it is, 65.
Awesome. I make 10 cents per participant.
Here we go.
Thank you. I'm hoping the pictures make a little bit of sense. I think Jim went over this a few times, but it's one of the first things he shared. I wanted to make it easier for you guys, so I think awesome. Ooh. Yeah, so you basically, I know some people, I don't know who clicked the physical layer, but I appreciate that. But yeah, you double click on the data showing on the data panel, so that when you look at the data, that's when it drills down onto the physical layer. You don't right click on the connection. That's on the data source page. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. Ooh.
C line.
Next one. I can lower the volume a little bit. I feel like it might be a bit high. I thought this was tricky, but a few of these I grabbed. Yeah, that is not. So everything else Jim mentioned in his presentation. So it adds rows to the data. Basically, that means it makes the table longer. And to do that, you need the field names and data types to match. And it does need the same number of fields so the union can work. Ooh, we have new people on the board. Awesome. I don't know if the audio is going on, but if it's too quiet, let me know.
I think it's good.
Okay. It's because I can't hear anything. Oh yeah, can you do this? Can you stack a join and a unit together? Make a data burger. Oh, it's too quiet for me. I don't know. Awesome. Yeah, you can stack and do a union together. Let's see. I'll go to the next. So we can just see who's. Okay, perfect. Yeah, how do you do a simple? I have to do this still because a lot of our files are legacy ones. I'm trying to move it out to Tableau. So awesome. Yeah, we do a join here to get the lookup. So basically, we don't do a union because the way that Jim showed the data was we had to join the same primary keys together. So he had sales data and product data, and he joined them together so he can have. That's basically how we would do a VLOOKUP in Excel, but this is more visually. You can see it in visual platform. Ooh, okay.
Mayank, nice.
No, I've seen him in the chat, I think. This is not your data, Jim. Sorry if I'm like so specific. You can always do this one. I think he loves Excel, Jim. I know for sure he does. So he might be using like 10 lines of formula. But yeah, no, he stacked the data from February under the January data. That basically is a union. He did a union and he created the combined data for different months. Awesome, Mayank. Okay, I've seen Patrick and IR. Let's see this one. Oh yeah, this was just I got curious. You can't see if you can't see it, but this was supposed to be my bad. I tried to take a bigger picture, but it didn't load correctly. So he clicked on something when he was showing us. He was very quick, but I took notice of that. I was like, that's cool. I don't know if people are aware of that. So you can do view data on Tableau, and he did something. Yeah. So there was an icon. If you let me see, show me. Yeah. There's this little icon. I don't know if you can see it if I make it bigger. Yeah, there's this little icon that you can click on to view data.
Okay, this question was a test, a real test.
Yeah. I noticed that really quick, and I wanted to like make sure people could do that as well, because he was using that a few different times. This question is from Maddie. If you paid attention to the video. Yes, they mentioned the shape helps. That was the most what's the one? Oh yeah, that was the most meaningful one that was in the chart that they showed. Awesome. Oh no, shoot, I have the answer there. My bad. I'm gonna skip it. No, I'm gonna skip that one. My bad. I didn't do a good job. Okay, I think this is a fun one. Audio. I think this might be the last question. I don't know what the next. Oh, I don't know what the next one is. Yeah, Jim, you're an honorary too now, so of course people might choose you. I don't know. That's a tie. That's beautiful. I think that's beautiful.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a tie.
Wonderful, actually. They can't choose between you two, so I don't know.
That's good. Usually Kevin wins these for some reason.
I think it's because
I'm just happy to have a tie.
And I have this option. So some people said they can't choose. So Jim, you are definitely an honorary twin. I was supposed to have another question, but I think I didn't do a good job with making the answers. So I have another fun one.
No, Lara, but then you're doing it on the fly is a lot. So
No, thank you.
Yes, it is.
Maddie helped me with a lot of the questions, and I thought, as we
yeah,
had-
Maddie, thank you for doing that.
yeah. I mean, I think I'm not trying to scare you, so I'm just trying to ask like when it is, but we'll promote it again after. Yeah,
There
awesome.
you
Yeah,
go.
it's not-
Good job.
thank you. Thankfully, it's not the end of this month, so you don't have to worry too much. But from April 29th to May 1st.
And for those of you going to TC, and if you see us, and Laura's going to be there, Maddie's going to be there, I'm going to be there. I can't speak for Ken and Kevin. I know they're going to be there, but if you see any of us, just stop, introduce yourself. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear about your journey and
100%.
how it's going for you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so
100%
much, guys. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I think that's it. Viraj, you want to pull up that one last slide again? I know we went over it about the next meeting so that they can pull the QR code. Who won? Oh, good point. Who won, Laura? So people are, okay.
Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, but
Well, Laura, you can just.
yeah, I can tell you. When you're fine.
Laura's going to try to show us.
Yeah, sorry.
screen
So
there.
Mark C1.
Okay, Mark Siegel.
Patrick, I saw IR a lot of places.
Okay.
But Mark C.
Okay.
What's up, guys?
So you go home and tell the kids just how well you did today, and I hope to see it at the next meeting.
Yep.
And now you can pull up the next meeting, Raj.
Yeah, thank you.
You can look at it there. Okay, there you go. Andy's going to be at our next meeting, and that is on the 18th of April. And if you want to scan the code, you can sign up for that meeting. Love to have you there. Thank you. Drive safely. I say that because everybody's at their desk at home, and Maddie got the humor there. She just shakes her head. Ken,
Thank
Kevin?
you, Ken and Kevin. Great presentation.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
It
you
was
so much for
wonderful.
being out here. I hope you enjoyed yourselves and you have a good idea what the group looks like. Just so you know, after the meeting after Andy's meeting, Lindsay Betzendahl is going to speak. So I always love her work. She does some really great stuff. So
Fantastic.
we're looking forward to that. Anything y'all need? Anything we can do? Klaus, sorry I dropped the ball on that one. I was like, where's he going with this? I'm lost.
No problem. Sorry for asking that.
Oh no, that's
Yep.
fine.
I'll
That's
stop
fine.
So
recording
thanks.
now.
Yeah.
No,
Thanks everyone